The first factory town. In 1778, George Washington traveled with aides through New Jersey. They stopped for lunch at the Great Falls of the Passaic River. Alexander Hamilton, one of Washington's aides, gazed up in wonder at the power of the falls. With great force, the water plunged 70 feet between rocky cliffs. 13 years later, Hamilton had a vision of a city powered by rushing water. Paterson, New Jersey would become that city. The big picture. In 1789, Alexander Hamilton held an important job in the United States government. He believed that for our country to grow strong, it had to develop manufacturing. Manufacturing means making large amounts of goods in factories. One of Hamilton's ideas was to build a planned city. He suggested New York, Pennsylvania, or New Jersey as possible locations for the city. 700 acres of land near the Great Falls of the Passaic River was chosen as the spot. The new city was called Paterson, after William Paterson, New Jersey's governor. It would be a long time before this city becomes a success, but the story of its growth tells much about early manufacturing in New Jersey and the United States. A city by the falls. Alexander Hamilton believed that government had to take the lead in building the economy. New Jersey's leaders agreed. You have already read how they encouraged economic growth by chartering bridges and turnpikes. They also worked to build industry. In November of 1791, Governor William Paterson signed a charter to found the Society for Establishing Useful Manufactures, or SUM. The purpose of SUM was to develop manufacturing. Paterson was to be SUM's first factory town. The society worked out a special deal with the state legislature. SUM was given almost a monopoly on manufacturing in Paterson and would pay no taxes. It was given control of the waters of the entire Passaic River, including the power of the mighty falls. In fact, SUM was the real government in the city. In 1793, SUM built a cotton mill in Paterson. By the following year, the population had shot up from about 50 people to about 500 people. Even with government help, however, manufacturing had a shaky start. The mill failed in 1797, and soon there were only about 50 people living in Paterson again. The city later came back to life when new factories were built. Alexander Hamilton did not live to see this success. For years, Hamilton and Aaron Burr, the Vice President of the United States, had been enemies. On July 11, 1804, they fought a duel at Weehawken. Burr shot Hamilton, who died the next day. Paterson takes off. In 1812, war broke out between the United States and Great Britain. This conflict is known as the War of 1812, though it lasted until 1815. During the war, British ships prevented European goods, such as cotton cloth, from reaching American ports. Made by machine. During this time, industry was growing in Paterson. Many factories and smaller shops had opened. By 1814, the population had reached about 1,500 people. The town was on its feet and could manufacture supplies for the war. John Colt convinced the United States Navy to use cotton cloth for its ship's sails instead of linen. Colt also convinced them that Paterson could make the fabric. Its cotton mills began to turn out yards and yards of cloth. The town became known for cotton cloth manufacturing. The diagram on this page shows the steps in producing cotton cloth. The first cotton factories performed all of these tasks in one place. Paterson would become even more famous for manufacturing a different cloth, silk. In 1838, Christopher Colt, John's brother, made the first silk manufactured in town. Other mill owners followed. Soon, Paterson was known as Silk City. By 1860, its population had grown to almost 20,000. This is a diagram of a cotton factory in the 1830s. And it says early factories in Paterson were powered by water. The water turned a water wheel, which powered the mill's machinery. What happened to raw cotton after it arrived at the mill? So if you pause the video, you can take a look at what happens to raw cotton after it arrives at the mill. Factory towns. Industry developed in other cities in New Jersey as well. Great iron mills were built in Trenton. Factories in Jersey City and the southern part of our state produced glass. By 1850, paper mills near Paterson, Whippany, Milburn, and Trenton made New Jersey an important paper-producing state. Orange was known for manufacturing fine hats. What was good for business, however, was not always good for workers. They had to work long hours. In Paterson, the sum owned everything in the town, and the people could not even vote for a town government. In the summer of 1828, the Paterson factory owners tried to change workers' lunch hour from 12 o'clock to 1 o'clock. As a result, many child workers, some younger than 12, went on strike. A strike happens when all the workers in a business refuse to work until the owners meet their demands. One observer said the children would not stand for it, for fear if they agreed to this, the next thing would be to deprive them of eating at all. Many other workers joined the strike to support the children. When the owners agreed to keep the 12 o'clock lunch hour, the strike ended. As industry grew in Paterson and throughout New Jersey, many workers went on strike for shorter work days, better pay, and safer working conditions. Often the strikes failed. However, workers continued to band together and gradually improved their conditions. Today, you can visit the Paterson Historic District and tour the old factories, and that's a picture of one of the old factories. Why it matters. Alexander Hamilton's plans for Paterson came true in some ways. Today, Paterson is called the cradle of American industry. Manufacturing became an important part of New Jersey's economy and still is today. So let's just look at the main ideas, and tomorrow you will answer some questions about this chapter. So we'll look at the main ideas and make sure you check out the links that I'm giving you about Alexander Hamilton, and there are links to some factory tours. So main ideas: the Great Falls of the Passaic River provided power to run factory machines. So Paterson is located where it is because the Passaic River provided power to run the factories. Paterson became a center for making cotton cloth and silk. And factory work was hard and workers struggled to gain rights. Right, so please make sure you check out the YouTube links with this assignment, and tomorrow you will have a form for this information.